Nick, it's really almost 6 years ago today, in December 2019. So before COVID, there was an article published in PubMed that you found recently with the dystopian title Biocompatible Near-Infrared Quantum Dots Delivered to the Skin by Microneedle Patches Record Vaccination. And I have a lot of questions for you about these microneedle patches. But first, I want to read you a couple of sentences from the abstract of this article to set the scene. Okay, so this is the article I just mentioned. And there is the abstract. And I wanted to read a sentence or two from the abstract. So here at the very beginning, accurate medical record keeping is a major challenge in many low-resource settings where well-maintained centralized databases do not exist, contributing to 1.5 million vaccine-preventable deaths annually. Here, so in this article, we present an approach to encode medical history on a patient using the spatial distribution of biocompatible near-infrared quantum dots. The abbreviation is NIRQDs in the dermis, so in the skin. All right, I'm going to stop here, I think, because there is a lot in just this, actually, in these two sentences. What is this about, Nick?
Yeah, so this is very disturbing, right? So what you've read there is they have a plan to, and they claim the purpose of that plan is to increase vaccine uptake. And it appears their way to do that is to track who is vaccinated and who is not. And so it appears the only purpose of doing that would be to basically use it as a biological vaccine passport system where, since this is installing what are these called quantum dots, and this is some sort of biomaterial, these nanocrystals that I think are like a few nanometers wide. I'm not a chemical engineer, so I don't know the exact full terminology. It's some very long name of what these things actually are. They're nanocrystals, and so and if we go a few sentences down, they found they last for about 5 years in the body. They exposed it. They simulated sunlight exposure to kind of measure, well, is it going to degrade? It did not really degrade very well. These are very long lasting. And so, does that increase vaccine uptake? It appears it will be because those who do not have this mark, um, they won't be, they'll have to, uh, they'll prevent them from accessing certain things in society if they don't have that mark, which means they wouldn't be vaccinated. And so, but the people who do have the mark, it appears they will be allowing them to participate in certain things in society. But this is very worrisome.
Yes, and it says 5-year equivalent. So I guess that means that at least right now, after 5 years, this mark somehow disappears or dissolves completely and cannot be read anymore, because that is read by a scanning device. This thing, right? This kind of code, this pattern in your skin.
Yeah, yeah. And I know it's in one of the figures in there, they'll show it in the paper. They show adapted smartphones. They made some sort of contraption where they could use just classical smartphones that we have now to be able to detect these quantum dot materials in the body. So again, this is just there's only one purpose behind this. There's only one purpose, and many people, people who are religious or what have you. There's people that call this, the mark of the beast. It sounds quite similar to that, where you are marked and you will need this mark to participate in society. But and it also sounds like a dystopian movie where you will need to be marked to go enter and participate in society. So, um, yeah,
Yeah,
this is bad.
it sure does, and I want to go a little bit more into the technology. So it says down here that these quantum dot containing so there are these quantum dot containing microparticles here, and then they are embedded in dissolvable microneedles, and they administered that to rats with or without a vaccine. And that was all in 2019. So this is this 2019 article that was before COVID. That is almost 6 years ago. Um, I don't think anybody or very few people had any clue and paid attention to this. And then, as you just said, longitudinal in vivo imaging. So they actually use that on these rats using a smartphone adapted to detect NIR light. This is near infrared light, demonstrated that microneedle delivered QD patterns remained bright and could be accurately identified using a machine learning algorithm 9 months after application. That I find also really interesting because 6 years ago, artificial intelligence wasn't anywhere near where it is now. But they were already then, back then, they were using this machine learning algorithm to actually decode this pattern in the skin. Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah, you're correct. They're already using similar things, similar types of, like the LLMs, like the large language models that everybody uses today, ChatGPT, etc. Where these kind of large, these computers basically just kind of accumulate large amounts of information, and they were so basically what this signals is, since this was in what it was published in 2019, so they were probably working on this maybe even a full decade ago, and it appears that they may have even knew that this rise in AI was going to come, and thus they would have to start kind of utilizing it for this particular purpose. And again, so since this was in 2019, we don't know if they wanted to deploy this for the COVID pandemic. I suspect they may have wanted to, but that didn't happen. And so, but again, this was also based on just this study. It wasn't ready yet. Like this was not ready for humans yet. There's too many obstacles you had to go through, and so and we'll get to that next, obviously, the 2025 paper where it has significantly advanced. But yeah,
Right, right. But it's an interesting question for how long they've been working on this. You said, well, probably 10 years. Who knows? Maybe longer. Maybe since since the swine flu, this swine flu so-called pandemic in 2009, that was like kind of like a rehearsal or an attempt for an epidemic that didn't go very well. Who knows when they started it? Um, but it's interesting. So, what you said about that, they might have known about AI. I just heard the other day that Google bought I think it was Google that bought large tracts of land in, I think, Texas, huge tracts of land in 2016, 18, and then 19, like 600 acres altogether. And they are now using that to build like 400 data centers for their other computers for AI. Okay, and yeah, it wasn't ready. It wasn't ready. If it had been ready, it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if they had tried to use it. But it clearly wasn't ready yet. And then they say here, in addition, co-delivery. So not just this medical record that is implanted. The pattern that holds the medical record is implanted in your body, but it's co-delivered with inactivated poliovirus vaccine produced. Oh yeah, when they did this, actually tried this, I guess, in these rats, it produced neutralizing antibody titers above the threshold considered protective.
yeah. So that's what they do in this vaccine research. All they really care about are these antibodies that are produced. And that's basically the only thing they measure. And so they claim that, oh, the antibodies went up, so it's going to be effective, which is nonsense. But regardless, what that means in this particular paper is that this microneedle patch, and I call it an implant because I mean, the materials will be in your body, implanted in your body for a long time. I would not call these a vaccine, but they will co-deliver the quantum dots and the vaccine material, or now in the new ones, the mRNA material. But yeah, here in 2019, they used the polio virus vaccine. And so that's what needs to be understood, is that it's not going to be a system where they give you, a shot and they give you the patch. No, they will just ship the patch to your house, which will have both of it already in there. So all you do is you put the patch on, self-administered, and boom, you can go travel on the airplane. You can go and go about society during another pandemic. And so that's what these are planned to be used for.
Which that means that in order to make sure that you actually did administer this patch, because it's self-administered, as you just said, they ship it to your house. Did you do it? Did you not do it? So you have to be scanned. At the airport, they have to scan for your information. Did you take it or did you not take it? Otherwise, it wouldn't work.
Right. Right. That's exactly what they'll do. Just like you go through here in America, TSA, to go on an airplane, you got to go through security, and, they check your ID, they check all this stuff. I know, in Europe, they had vaccine passports to travel where you would show them something. Sometimes it was an app or a QR code. So, the construct's already in place. The programs of, requiring vaccines to do things are already made during the COVID pandemic. And so some say it was just a trial run to put all of these pieces in place, because then they can launch another pandemic. They could release something from a laboratory, and there won't be much work required. They just, boom, reactivate the same apps, the same constructs as before, and then they can start to roll out this type of technology, where they'll claim it's a good thing, like, oh, you won't need a phone anymore and an app. You can just scan your wrist in case you don't. So if you forget your phone, it's fine. It's on your wrist, and so
Mm-hmm.
I, it, it'll be so difficult, I think, for populations to go along with this. I mean, at least here in America, people aren't going to take this garbage. So I think the only way they would actually get away with this is if they made it the only option, right? So it would literally be the only vaccine you could get with these micro needles, and the only form of verification you could obtain would be through these micro needles. That's how they would get you. That's how they would get people to do it, just so they could, go about their daily lives. And yeah, I don't know what countries would be this drastic. Probably a lot of them, because we know what they've done during 2020 and beyond. Um,
Yes.
Canada will probably go along with as many other European countries, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But clearly, this is under development, under rapid development, funded by, and if you want to go to the
Yeah, we'll go.
funding.
We'll go. Yeah, we'll jump to the next one in a moment. But I wanted to read this last sentence as well, because the last sentence of the abstract, because I find that particularly interesting. It says here, these findings, so that we just talked about, suggest that intradermal QDs, quantum dots, can be used to reliably encode information and can be delivered with a vaccine. And then I think that the quantum dots for the particular vaccine would tell you which vaccine it was, probably what the date was or the month, something like that. At least that you have a date, the batch number and information like that would be encoded on these QDs. And then they say, so this technology, which may be particularly valuable in the developing world, and open up new avenues for decentralized data storage and biosensing. So there are three interesting things here. First of all, they envision this to be particularly useful in the developing world. So like, they're probably thinking about Africa. um, or any remote place where people are hard to reach, where there are not many doctors, etc. They don't seem to be thinking all that much about the developed world. I don't, maybe just to make it more palatable to people. Maybe because the scientists who are working on this don't really like the idea of having these patches into their bodies themselves. Who knows? Um, but then they say it opens up new avenues for decentralized data storage and biosensing. Can you talk a little bit about this and the implications
Y-
of that?
Yeah, so they're claiming decentralized data storage will be, instead of having your vaccine information on an app or some online database, it'll be in your body. So they claim that's a good thing. I don't know. I'd rather have my vaccine info in some government database, to be completely honest, than in my body. But that's just me.
I
Both are
agree.
bad, but
Yes.
uh, so they're trying to claim that that's a benefit of it. Biosensing, um, you know, I, I guess they're saying, when they say biosensing, it means merging technology with biological organisms, and using biological organisms to detect certain things. I mean, so both that avenue is something that is being expanded upon. We know things like even such as wearables, things that can like measure your blood, and for people with diabetes, your blood sugar, and we have all the wearables now that measure all sorts of parameters. We
That's
have
right. And Robert Kennedy just recently, a couple of months back, I forgot when exactly, talked about wearables and that in a couple of years everybody should have one. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah, he mentioned that. And
I was
a
struck
lot.
by that. I thought that was really odd.
Yeah, he mentioned that. Well, I'll tell you, he's mentioned a lot of things recently that many people have found odd, because they go in
I
direct
know.
violation with what he said a few years ago. So, yeah, I mean, something's going on there. But yeah, regardless, that was odd. I mean, all of the Maha movement, they don't want this. So they don't want wearables. They don't want biosensing technologies. They might want decentralized data storage, but not in your own body.
Yes. This decentralized data storage, wow. I mean, what a euphemism they're using here. They are basically talking about making your own body into a database. Your body is going to store data that can be read by AI. And I guess that means, well, if your body turns into a database, then that data is going to be accessed all the time, because if
Exactly.
you have to read your body all the time, because if it's really only in your body, then you have to read your body, scan your body all the time. And I guess that's what they mean with this biosensing. That is a huge amount of scanning going to be going on to access your body database. So it's absolutely dystopian, when you decipher this abstract. It's
It,
actually really really shocking.
it's really shocking, and this is the path we're headed down, this dystopian path, and we know AI is accelerating quite drastically. Um, Look at this competing
Yeah,
interests: a patent
right.
application entitled "Microneedle Tattoo Patches."
Right. So they're hoping to make some money with that. So I mean, come on, they are developing this, and they are hoping to market it. They have this patent application. Well,
Yeah.
um,
Um,
quite interesting. Um, All right. So the QDs, I read that somewhere. It says, either in here or somewhere else, that eh, they have a copper indium selenide core and aluminum doped zinc sulfide shell. That doesn't sound particularly healthy to me. This aluminum doped zinc sulfide shell. I don't know. What do you make of that?
no, it doesn't sound healthy, and that's not going to be healthy for anybody to, be embedded in their body, in their skin for long periods of time. Those are it'll definitely be toxic material, not necessarily compatible. And yeah, I believe they're reflective, or what they call nano semiconductive materials. Um, and so none of this stuff is going to be good to put in your body. That's just we should realize. Putting in anything, any sort of metal like that, particularly those that will include aluminum, that's not going to be good.
Yes, right. And I wanted to show I wanted to show the schematic here because I was wondering how on earth does that even work? I mean, we are used to vaccines and they are liquid and they're in a little bottle, and it's actually quite a bit of liquid. And when you look at this schematic here that they have, that's one of is that the same article? Not sure, but this is the schematic is what they show here. So you have this microneedle here, and then there is the OPMR, which is the On Patient Medical Record. That is in the tip in the tip of this triangle here, this needle, and then behind it sits the drug. So the it's a tiny, and then they have I don't know how many dozens of these little needles, and each needle contains this. So it's a very complicated arrangement. How do you even make sure that you have the right amount of? I mean, I think the whole thing is horrible, but just when you look at the technical problems you're faced here with, right? To even make this possible, you have to have. How can you put the drug in here and then distribute it over dozens of needles?
Yeah, they must have some sort of dose standardization formulation that they do in this when they print these out. I think they 3D print these out. I know they have 3D
Mhm.
printers in another study.
Right,
They've already made the factory capacities for these. They're actually, I guess, they're cheap. They've been able to kind of scale the price down for these, so they've managed to develop it where they would keep the dose consistent. Um, and if you look closely at the black dots, where the black dots are situated, it appears to be a form of, not literally, but just like a QR code, right?
right.
Because it'll be kind of situated differently in each patch, and it will kind of be appears to be, it'll be personalized to each individual, or different for each individual is what I mean, where every person will have their own type of mark on here. Now, the problem with that though is, if they really plan on doing that, I don't know. Like, if they want you to get a second dose or third dose, how many of these tattoos are you gonna have? It's like, which
Lots,
one do they scan then?
lots. Yes, they are going to be all over the place. Because they probably can't put them right on top of each other, so they have to put them next to each other. So maybe up your entire lower arm, just the wrist up to the elbows. I don't know. I don't know what they are planning. The whole thing is horrific, but I guess that's what they are planning. So you have to. So when you administer the thing, and you let's say you administer the thing, a second one, a year after you did the first one, and you accidentally put it in exactly the same place, what happens then?
Yeah, exactly. Then you're gonna have like a kind of messed up QR code, and
Yes,
it's not gonna read properly, and then they'll say,
that's
"Oh, all
right.
right, you gotta get another one now." But no,
Yes,
I
the
I,
more
I
the
really,
better.
yeah, I really
Yeah.
don't know what it appears they haven't really thought that part out yet. But I don't know. Maybe they just plan. You take this, and they really don't care what happens after that, because once this is in you, they have you controlled, and that's it basically. So, maybe that's what they're thinking. I really don't know.
And this one here, I just saw it talks here about mRNA. So this figure is from the 2025 article. So here they put the mRNA vaccine into the needle, and then they talk quite enthusiastically about the LNPs, nanoparticles, and how great they are. unbelievable. But we'll go to that second paper in a moment. If you get this stuff sent or delivered or whatever, this micro patch, you really have absolutely no idea what's in it. And the same is true for any vaccine. But, before COVID, it had never really occurred to me because I still trusted I trusted the health agencies. I thought vaccine were a good thing. I don't think that anymore. But now at this where we are now after the experience of COVID, I wouldn't trust anything and anybody. I would have no clue what's on it. They say there's something on it. How do I know what's really on that thing? How do I know what's really inside?
Yeah. Yeah, you don't know what's in it. And the bigger problem here also is, at least when you got the deadly and carcinogenic mRNA shots, at least there was somebody there in case you had an anaphylactic shock or some acute event that happened right after. With this, there will be nobody watching. You'll just kind of, if you have anaphylactic shock, you're screwed. Like there's no medical supervision. But if you put it on wrong, it's just it's so bad. But again, so
That's
that's
a really
another thing,
important that's a really important point, actually, you
and
know?
it's one they don't again, that's another thing they don't think about, right? And so, and
Yeah.
I know it, and I believe it mentions in one of these discussion sections, it says self-administered, so
Yes.
it will be planned to be shipped, right? So that's what
Yes.
the purpose of making these in this manner, would be, because and I think the reason they're making these is because they know vaccine uptake's collapsing. Like nobody's taking this stuff anymore. And so they're trying to get away from the big needles at the doctors to just they're trying to make it as easy as possible and painless as possible. And they're going to claim there's all sorts of benefits to this. And yeah, I think it'll fail quite miserably. But the only way they'll get this on people is with totalitarian medical mandates.
That's the way they market it, the way you just described it. They call or self-administered, that's great. You don't have to go to the doctor. You just do it yourself, no problem. No cold chain is needed, can be sent in the post. It's really convenient, it's painless. Uh, you know, nothing to fear here. Just stick it on you and that's it. I was wondering about this though. Now, let's say you do that, you put it into your skin, and then you go, let's say you want to take a train or let's say an airplane. You come to the airport, you're being scanned, and the AI tells you, no, you didn't take that. You didn't take your last mRNA COVID shot or whatever it is. And you say, well, wait a minute, I just admitted it yesterday. It came in the mail, I put it on. So and the AI tells you, no, you did not. I cannot see it. And there's really no way you can prove that you put it on. And so what do you do then? I mean, what will probably happen in that case is that they'll tell you you have to take another one. Because if it's really completely decentralized, if just your body is your database, there are no other records. You didn't when you implanted it, you didn't somehow hook up to some digital database, some vaccine registry or something, then the only solution would be that they give you another one. And in a dystopian society, you could in that way you could force people to take more and more of these toxic implants.
Right, right. And that's completely in line with this plan to do this, because and it's not crazy, it sounds like, imagine if people heard us saying this stuff, 10 years ago, they'd be like, man,
I
what are they
know.
talking about?
They are nuts.
They're gonna force
Yes.
you to put a patch on and have robots say if you can go on the plane or not. But no, it's happening. It already happened in 2021. They said you couldn't go on the plane for the gene if you didn't have the gene shot. So it already happened in that aspect. But yeah, the next stage is going to be there won't be somebody, a human, checking you into the plane. I don't even know if there'll be human security guards. It'll be probably humanoid robots or just some sort of artificial intelligence machinery that will make all these decisions and run the operations. And we know that that's a real thing because we know, Elon Musk, he's going on everything now saying that, yeah, These humanoid robots that he's making, they're going to be everywhere in 5 years. All the human workforce, it's going to be decimated. There basically won't be many humans doing so many of these jobs anymore. They're just going to replace it all with robotics and AI. And so that's what makes
Mhm.
this plan even scarier, because if this AI is so, who are you gonna call and complain to? Are they gonna have the humans sitting in the back closet somewhere, and you gotta call the human in the? I don't know. It's just we're running into this such dangerous territory, and this is just one of the small aspects of it.
You might not even have a human in the loop anymore. You might talk to some sort of AI bot about the problems you have. That's going to be
Yeah,
fun.
yeah,
So let's fast forward 6 years. So all this was 2019. Let's go let's go to an article that you also discovered. I think that's great how you do that. You go and scour these PubMed databases for articles. Because otherwise I never would have even found out about it. I wouldn't know anything about this. So and this article, so I looked up the article that you found, and it's this one here. February 24, 2025. On Patient Medical Record and mRNA Therapeutics using intradermal microneedles. All right, so let's have a look what they did in the meantime, 6 years later. And a lot of this will sound pretty familiar to us now. It starts off, medical interventions often require timed series of doses, thus necessitating accurate medical record keeping. In many global settings, these records are unreliable or unavailable at the point of care, leading to less effective treatments or disease prevention. So there they go on again about medical records are unreliable. The body has to become the database, right? This whole same stick again.
yep,
And we already know about the needle invisible to the naked eye on patient medical record keeping technology. But then they say we optimize the microneedle design for both a reliable delivery of messenger RNA therapeutics, not just vaccines, but therapeutics. So it might be what? Like a cancer
yep,
therapeutic, right?
yep.
And the near-infrared fluorescent microparticles that encode the on-patient medical record keeping. Okay, so that hasn't changed. It's still the same mechanism. And then they say, yeah, look at this. Long-term studies in a swine model. So they tested it in pigs. Demonstrate the safety, efficacy, and reliability. So it's safe. We're very familiar with these terms, and it's reliable.
So I'm
Great.
guessing, so for
Isn't that
advocate,
awesome?
yeah. What this shows is, they published a 2019 study, and then probably a few years later, they were upgrading this technology, and then they kind of really went into it and tried to improve it and prove its use, in a larger mammal, right? Because they wanted it in a larger mammal because obviously it's planned to go into humans. And so this appears to be the, final step before they start using the quantum dots in human and testing those on humans. They've already tested the micro needle patches in many human studies already, particularly in Africa. So they've already kind
Yes,
of,
and in infants too, correct? They
yeah.
said. Mhm.
Yeah. So, but this is the last phase now for quantum dot implementation in humans. But yeah, so, and if we go through like some of the images they have there, it appears that it has advanced.
Nick, one second. Sorry to stop you, but I want to read this last sentence before we do that, because this is there they go. The last sentence they always use for their marketing pitch. So, very interesting. Here they say this technology could help healthcare workers make informed decisions in circumstances where reliable record keeping is unavailable, thus contributing to global healthcare equity. So they seem to have moved away a little bit from you administered yourself. It's just, decentralized. Now they say, no, oh, yeah, the healthcare workers, you should welcome this because it helps you make informed decisions in
Right.
circumstances where reliable record keeping is unavailable. What do they
Yeah.
even mean? What do they even mean by that? That they're going to scan your body for what patches you got in the past, or so that they know what shots you need?
Well, they claim that everything we so what that basically is saying is all the record keeping we have now is unreliable, and this will be the most reliable. And I think they're afraid of like people kind of forging their vaccine cards, at least here in America, because we just had cards. We didn't have QR codes and all that nonsense. I think the Hawaii might have, but yeah, we just had cards here, they're probably even referring to us, where all this what they call non-reliable needs to be stored in your body, so you can't forge it, you can't manipulate it. There's nothing you can do. You just have to take this. And informed decisions, when they say that, I guess they're claiming that so the healthcare workers know that you've been vaccinated reliably, and I guess they're claiming that the mRNA, if you get these mRNA micro patches, you'll be less likely to transmit the infection. So again, that's also nonsense. We know mRNA can never prevent transmission. So it's just all of that sentence is completely flawed. And then they use global healthcare equity. They love to use the word equity. All of these,
Yes.
pharmaceutical companies, they try and, piggyback on that word to act like they're doing some great thing when in
That's right.
reality it's absolutely inverted.
Yeah, they love to squeeze that in. It's just a completely hollow marketing pitch here. Three things I find really remarkable here. It's 6 years later. We have seen the carnage that the mRNA shots have done to the population worldwide, and they are completely this is not mentioned anywhere. It's just like, oh, this is the best thing. This is wonderful. It's efficient. It's safe and effective and reliable. That in itself, I think, is breathtaking. And then, do you remember like 10 years ago, 12 years ago or so, when Obama said, oh, we need to get away from paper-based medical records, everything has to be digitized, and we need digital records, and how wonderful that's going to be and how great that's going to be. Well, that's all over now. Apparently all the digital records are also unreliable. They talk
Right.
about reliable record keeping. That's the reason that keeps popping up over and over again, to make it palatable somehow. And then they talk about this equity. Well, are you against equity? Well, let's talk about global healthcare equity. We need to get the people in the jungle protected as well. In the main text, they say some interesting things as well. They keep talking about the timed doses, that you need several doses. They have to be timed in certain intervals. And if that doesn't happen, then you risk suboptimal protection, like here. And then they say currently as many as 40% of patients fail to comply with medical treatments around the globe. Poor adherence is responsible for 125,000 annual deaths in the United States alone.
I'm pretty sure adherence
And
is actually the death count's much higher for adherence for,
yes,
hospital failures, and
yeah.
medical, malpractice. Honestly, I think it's over 125,000. So that's some other marketing pitch.
And then they say here in sub-Saharan Africa, 35% of children between 12 and 23 months fail to complete recommended childhood vaccinations. Yeah, thank goodness. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But of course, they want to change that. And then they talking about the factors that contribute to these gaps. They want to close all these gaps. There has to be vaccination in close succession, apparently, all over the world, into the most remote little village. And then they talk about conventional methods. All that doesn't work, like paper-based cards and online databases present serious risks of losing access to medical histories.
Yeah, okay.
And therefore the risk of missing or mistimed follow-up doses. My God, I mean, human beings are so fragile. I don't know how we made it how we made it through the Middle Ages before there were any vaccines.
Yeah, wow,
How we made it.
missing follow-up doses of more deadly mRNA. How bad is that?
Yes, and then they say for that reason a handful of medical record keeping means have emerged, and so they mention based on fingerprint scanning, cell phone applications, microchips, and more. However, these approaches have raised privacy concerns related to individual identifiable medical data storage in a centralized database. So here again, they have their marketing pitch. They are playing on fear of what? Violated privacy. If your own body becomes your database and it's scanned all the time, you have absolutely no privacy because your entire body is being read. Where's your privacy? There's no privacy.
No, there's none. There's much less privacy when it's in your body.
So this whole thing that they built up here in this first long paragraph of the main, that's the main of the article. They don't even really talk about. They talk about that later, what they actually did. But this is all of this is about establishing why this is absolutely essential to have this creepy dystopian microneedle patch. So that gives you an idea, right? That they are aware of how much backlash and how much resistance there's going to be against this, I think.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're already laying out the justifications for it, that's for sure.
Hmm. All right. So let's have a look at some of the pictures here. I showed that before, but maybe you want to point out something else here.
Yeah, look at that. Look at the examples of mRNA therapeutics. So,
Oh yeah.
let's scroll up just a little more. Let's look at all these diseases. So, look at this is their plan for all the mRNA coming out. So they have it
Oh
for
wow.
cardiovascular, autoimmune, metabolic, type 2 diabetes,
Dementia.
and we know cancer, neurodevelopmental, and we have to remember that all of this stuff is a disaster. They've tested it already for um infectious diseases. Obviously, it's failed miserably. It's harmed and injured millions and millions of people. It's failed for um oh, they don't even mention RSV there, but I was gonna say it failed for RSV. And then cardiovascular diseases, we know mRNA technology damages the heart. So it's like I don't know how that's going to be helpful. We know it also is neurotoxic because the mRNA gets into your central nervous system. I'm not quite sure how it's going to help dementia. This is an overview of the gene manipulation of humanity.
You know, yeah, y- y- I think one could say that this graph here that shows us where they want to use this technology of these micropatches or mRNA micropatches. It actually shows all the disease that mRNA causes. We know it causes
Yeah.
autoimmune disorders. We know it causes cardiovascular disease, neurodevelopmental disorders, dementia. There was even, there's studies showing a link between repeated boosters and dementia, genetic diseases,
I
infectious
mean,
diseases.
it integrates into your genome,
That's true.
in
You're right.
turn
It
trigger
integrates
genetic
into your
yeah.
genome. Exactly. Yeah. Right. Oncology, of course, the turbo cancers,
You know,
metabolic diseases.
it causes
Um,
type 2 diabetes. There's multiple studies on that showing increased risk of diabetes. And yeah, we know it causes autoimmune disorders. In fact, that's its main mechanism is inducing your own body to attack vital tissues. So, yeah, this is actually showing you all the harms of the shot.
yes.
It's so
That's right.
crazy.
It is crazy. And look at this patch with a pattern, the ones and the zeros, and it says underneath securely, and so the OPMR, the On Patient Medical Record Microneedle Patch, securely and reliably stores billions of pieces of medical information. Billions of pieces of medical information. So That means it could store your entire medical history. Who knows what it stores in there? We don't even know what it stores. It might store all sorts of misinformation so that people give you more, so that you need more of these patches. We have
Right.
absolutely no idea. But it could also store pieces of non-medical information. It could store all sorts of other information about you, couldn't it?
It could store so many things, and they could use it for so many purposes. They can even use it for like, work identification. Like instead of bringing your badge just to get into like your office, they could just give you one of these patches and you'll have the code to get into the office.
That's right. Or to get into the parking lot, to do your banking, to um, wherever they think you need to be scanned and be compliant. So this is very, 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 very scary because it could be like a quantum dot. I think you called it a quantum dot verification passport.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what this is. I mean, well, really what this is a biological vaccine passport system. I mean, that's literally the whole purpose of it, of tracking your vaccine status, will be to use it as a passport to do things. And so that's what this is. And if this really goes ahead and they really start rolling this out, then we're in serious, serious trouble.
And you could also use it as a social credit system. It has all this information.
Yeah, and we have to remember wearables, or sorry, implants, tech technology, or implantable technology is becoming, it's going to become widespread, and its usage will become normalized as the devices start to roll out. It appears, Musk is working on Neuralink, and he said in a recent interview that, it's soon it's going to be like anybody can buy these brain chips, and you can augment your intelligence and merge with artificial intelligence in your own head. So that's what's coming up. And so since once all that's normalized though, it will be easier for them to get people to take these, because they already have all sorts of augmentation chips for all of these other things. It will be very easy to get people to take more augmentation chips. And just like 40 years ago, if you thought it was crazy that people would be carrying mini magic screens in their pocket 24/7 that can find any answer to anything in the world in 1 second. You would call them crazy, right? And so that's what we have to think in terms of these time scales and these time periods. This sort of crazy advancement or crazy stuff happens as we move forward in time and as technology will exponentially advance. So that's where we're headed. I Regarding the AI situation, I'm worried that we're actually going to have a centralized, not decentralized like they keep claiming, centralized AI control systems, and it'll be a nightmare. And so as each year goes by, as each month goes by, the AI is becoming more and more capable, and in a few years, everything we see online is predicted to just be AI generated content. We won't even know what's real anymore in videos like we see on X or we see on Instagram. We already see it now. Like, have you ever seen these videos where it like shows a baby and then a crocodile comes, and this type of stuff is getting millions and millions of views now. People can't tell if it's real, and
Mhm.
so that's another dangerous thing. We won't know what's real. We won't know even if our public health leaders, they can make a statement, but it won't actually be them. It'll just be an AI generated video of them saying something. And so that's the path we're headed down.
And the thing is that almost nobody wants that. I mean, when I talk to people about AI, many people are worried about losing their jobs. Many people have exactly the same fears that you just said. The deep fakes, we don't even really know anymore what's real, what's not real. People are afraid of what's coming. They don't like it. And they have absolutely no say in it. It's just coming down the pipeline, one horrible thing after the other. And there is absolutely no mechanism or any kind of participation of the population as a whole, of the citizens, of they play no role whatsoever. And that is very, very, very disturbing and very, very wrong. But it's very difficult to. I don't even know how to. I mean, how do you change that? What do you do?
Yeah, at this point, the artificial intelligence development projects, they're simply too powerful. They just have trillions and trillions of dollars is all funneling into this. All the governments are on board. There is the AI arms race. Like every government wants to be on top, and right now there's no way for us citizens to stop it. And I hate to say that, I hate to sound like so negative, but I don't know how we can stop the advancement of this technology. At this point, we can't. It's already underway. The only thing that would stop it would be, an X500 solar flare that would knock out our technology grid. That's the only thing that would stop it at this point. But that can happen too. That's a whole nother subject. We're actually due for one. So I don't know.
Yeah, these big tech guys like Musk and others are incredibly wealthy, very, very unbelievably wealthy, wealthier than many governments, wealthier than many nations, and they can do all sorts of things. I don't know if there were ever before in the history of the world people that were so powerful and wealthy. Maybe John Rockefeller, I don't know. But this is scary in itself that they have so much power, also power over governments, because the governments really have no clue what's going on, and they are lost. They don't understand what's happening. It's all coming way too fast, and they don't understand the whole thing. And plus, many of these tech guys also don't really understand AI. It's not how it fantasizes, or how it gives you how it I don't even want to say lie to you, but it has all sorts of shortcomings that are really dangerous, and it's not really understandable why that is and how to improve it. It's very, very complex, very, very difficult. um, but so you have these very, very rich people that are driving this forward because they're kind of, I think they're very power hungry. They've kind of gone crazy. They are like, they want to be the first ones to find this AGI, this artificial general intelligence. And they are almost gone mad in the pursuit of this, building this. It's almost like Dr. Frankenstein in the novel by Shelley, how she describes he became just, he was like in a feverish state trying to trying to create this creature. And some of them, like Sam Altman, they have thrown a lot of the safety considerations overboard because they are so kind of crazed to achieve this goal, and they live in a world that almost nobody else lives in, and they live in a world of their own where they talk to other people who are extremely rich and extremely powerful, and really lose the connection to reality, the reality most of us live in. So I think all that is very, very, very disconcerting. But these to come back to these microneedle patches, I mean, they can be used clearly. They can be used as genetic weapons. They can be used to harm people, make them sick, give them so many patches that they will eventually die, that they will die. So it can be used as a method to kill people, right? It could be.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, I don't
just
see why not.
yeah, that it'll be the same facade, the same scam. Where they'll say it's helpful, they'll say it's 99% effective, but in reality, it'll have negative effectiveness. It'll be increasing your risk of all sorts of dangerous things, and it will shorten your lifespan. And they will just keep lying to the population. They'll keep rolling them out, keep making people take them until there's not many people left and they can't have babies anymore. And unfortunately, um we already reached the point of sterilization of a large number of people from the mRNA campaign. And so it's just, yeah, thinking about this, it's so demoralizing. And so that's why it's important. It's so important that all of those involved in this mRNA rollout are actually held accountable, like now, like quickly, like for perpetuating fraud in the clinical trials and
Mhm.
doing all sorts of illegal things. That if we don't do anything, the next thing they have planned will be even worse, and they just keep
Mhm.
getting away with it. And so,
And not a single one has been held accountable. Not a single one has gone to prison. Not a single one.
not a
Now,
single one.
it was during COVID, it was easy. It was relatively easy to get a fake vaccination card. It was just, I mean, it was really primitive. It was super primitive. It was just a piece of paper with some text printed on it and then some, yeah. So what was easy, very easy. They're not going to make that mistake again. So next time with these implants, you cannot fake it. You cannot fake it. But for the people who, let's say the elite, I mean, they know that this stuff is poisonous, I think. They don't want to put these patches into themselves. So what they have to do is that they have to have a separate manufacturing arm where they build these patches with the quantum dots, but they do not put the payload in. So that it's just the quantum dots, no payload, so that when you are scanned, because they need to be scanned like anybody else, it would read that you received a certain vaccine, but in fact that wasn't the case. The data will tell a lie about what you actually received. So I guess that's the only way to get around it, right?
Yeah, they'll have some sort of bypass mechanism, but they won't be going into stores, I think. I mean, they have private jets, so they'll just be able to roll up to the runway. They won't have to scan anything. And I honestly I don't even think they would take the placebo quantum dots. I don't think they would want to be marked. They'll have a special bracelet maybe that kind of already has the QR code that allows them to access stuff, or you know, uh, something. They would have some bypass, but I don't know, maybe they would be marked too in the future. I mean, and they'll actually be subservient to the AI control system. So they won't even, the elites, they wouldn't even be on top anymore. I mean,
Maybe.
then once that happens, then I mean, that's it. That might even be more dangerous, right? If you have this just computer operating and making all the world decisions, this is getting to now the movie The Matrix. I mean,
Mhm.
that's so it's yeah,
It's a,
there's a lot of
definitely.
things. There's a lot of things we're talking about, many implications of things, many hypotheses we're bringing up. But everybody has to remember this is all on the table. This is all, and
Yes, it is, and
yeah,
people need to understand that. I mean, people like 10 years ago, people would have thought, "Oh, this is all crazy. This is science fiction. This makes for a good movie, and that's it." But as COVID has shown us, no, it's actually real. So people have to realize COVID was not some sort of outlier, and now we are back to normal, and we don't want to think about it because there are a lot of people like that because it's so terrible. You don't want to acknowledge it. No, you got to acknowledge it. You have to understand what's happening so that you can resist it. And I'm worried about the acceptance. You said something about that you think it will be hard for people to get Americans to accept this. But I was thinking about the following. We got really used to scanning ourselves, namely our biometrics. People use their fingerprints to get into their phones. We have facial recognition at airports. We have facial recognition when you return. Global entry is all facial recognition. We have been primed already to being scanned, to using our biometrics or our body to gain entrance, go back into the country, go out of the country, things like that. And then it's from there. So we are used to that already. And then the step from that to being scanned for some information that's actually not your biological information, but that is bio, as they call it, biocompatible information that was put into you and that can be read off you. Maybe that step isn't even that big anymore. I hope I'm wrong, but what do you think?
Yeah, it's not a big step. It's not a big step. You're right. They kind of just pushed on the facial recognition onto us. They pushed on so much of this stuff and people took it. But to get people to insert these implants into themselves, I think the only way to do that in America will be to, like, say, our current administration's there. I don't I couldn't see them getting away with implementing a form of mandate. So I think what they would have to do would be to generate enough fear for a pathogen to make people scared so much that they feel like their only option is to take that shot. And I say, they'll be able to amplify fear for one thing, which would be an intentional. When they would call it intentional, they wouldn't, hide it under the rug. They would call it an intentional bioterrorist attack, where it's some sort of monster Frankenstein pathogen that they've cooked up. Could even be a modified fungus uh, that can latch onto hosts and kind of turn their brain to mush, right? So, all this stuff, they're working on all this stuff in these bio laboratories. So if they release some monster thing like that, and they say, "Oh my God, we were attacked by Russia with this horrible thing, and if you go outside, you'll die pretty quickly." They'll be able to get people to line up for it, and so that's what's concerning. So that ties into the whole other subject of the bio laboratories. That, by the way, we should go into all these. Any modified pathogens with pandemic potential should be eliminated, destroyed. They don't belong in existence. But again, that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, so the higher the fear of a pathogen, the higher the vaccine uptake is.
Hmm. Yeah, so fear is one method. Another method, or maybe it would be combined with just cutting off access to the most basic things like buying food, where you can't get food before you are scanned and you have all your implants in your body. And if not, well, you cannot get food. Um, there are limitless possibilities. You could even think about having, like, the water in your house. You could say, like, well, you have to scan in order that water comes flowing out of your faucet, and stuff like that. It's just the possibilities are limitless. And if you do that, then you give people the option to either die because they refuse to get into the system, or to accept it for some sort of miserable dystopian life that is probably not worth living.
I'll tell you one thing: if they roll these micro needle patches out, I will not be taking them, regardless of the consequences. And that's what everybody should do. Don't take them.
Yes, same for me. Don't take them.
Do not take
Exactly.
them. If enough of us don't take them, then all the stores will go out of business, and all the stores will be very angry, and then everybody will
That's
kind of
true.
rise up against the BS. So
That's
there
true.
is a chance to circumvent that. So yeah, don't take it. That's it.
Don't take it. And if enough people do it, then it will not work. And that has been shown in the past. It doesn't happen very often, but COVID is still so fresh in the memory. If something like that happens again, people are remembering.
Yep.
And so that makes it a very different situation. It's a very different context from 2020, when everybody was just completely surprised and reality was totally, everything was different from what people thought it really was. But now we are a lot wiser because we have gone through that. And
Yep.
when you make people into, like, products that are scanned like a box of cereal, and you have a unique identifier, like in a worldwide concentration camp, right? Just nobody can see it because it's not tattooed on your skin. It's just read by your AI scanner. But if you reach that point, then I think all bets are off. They'll just kill you like flies. Uh, They want to reduce the population to 500 million? No problem. They're going to do that. I
Yeah.
think they would do just horrific, horrific things.
Yep. And if AI is programmed to seek to reduce people, it will it will be very hard to it will do a perfect job at trying to carry that out. And so
Mhm.
that's what's very, very, very dangerous. And so that's why we hope whatever sort of AI gets to the top, we hope it's not bad. In fact, we hope no AI ends up making the world global decisions or public health decisions. But unfortunately, that's the trajectory. We even see our own public health agencies now under the current administration. They are heavily implementing AI, which you throw in some giant data set that would take so long to analyze. It will analyze it in like a minute. Yeah, that's a good use of it. But the problem is it's not stopping there. It just keeps going and going and going until it reaches the point of no return and it's used for nefarious purposes. So yeah, there's a lot to consider here.
AI needs data. It feeds on data and it's running out of data. So I'm thinking that biodata, there's a huge mass of biodata, from billions of people in the entire world. So this whole thing with these quantum dots storing information, billions of pieces of information, as we read in the article, that would give a huge amount of content to the AI that it needs to feed on.
Yeah. Yeah, we get more data about individuals. Eventually, I mean, who knows? In the versions they roll out, maybe there'll be location trackers, location identifiers,
Mhm.
um, all sorts of other materials in them. Because you have to remember, so since these are only in the prototype stage, yeah, there could be more data inserted, more other materials inserted, other devices. So, yeah, that's definitely possible.
So one of the good things that Kennedy did was when was that? In August. In August of this year. So that was after this article came out that we just looked at. That was February. And he canceled something like 500 million mRNA research funding grants, 500 million, $500 million. How do you think does this influence the further research of this on this microneedle patch?
No, it doesn't impact that, I think, at all, the microneedle patches specifically. What it impacted was solely mRNA for infectious diseases. And Dr. Stephen Hatfill was central in that decision to pull that funding, and they got rid of him probably because he did that. So yeah, that's disappointing, but that was a great thing for sure, and knocked that kind of, because we know it just for infectious diseases like without a doubt it was a debacle, but unfortunately they couldn't cancel the ones for cancer and all the others because they're still under the development phase, and they wouldn't have been able to get away with enough rationale to do it without coming under severe backlash. So they unfortunately those are still running rampant for all these other diseases. What really needs to happen is just a complete moratorium of human use of any mRNA technology. It just doesn't work. It's just a disaster.
Mhm.
And I guess
Yeah.
I guess that been working on gene editing for rare genetic diseases where people die in 5 years anyways. It's like but even then the genetic therapy, the gene therapy still has just failed time and time again. They cancel the trials because it's killing all the participants. We're just not
Mhm.
ready. This manipulation, we can't act like God and think we can pick which genes to place here, which genes we want to upregulate here. It just doesn't work. It kills us.
Mhm. Well, it looks like we like to play God, but it doesn't end well. When you look at science, I mean, much of science is turning into some sort of a horror show. You know, um, not just the mRNA vaccines, but there's all sorts of other stuff like the bodyoids and what is it called, multiplex parenting, and all sorts of dystopian stuff that many people probably don't even know about. You don't even really want to tell them about it because it's so awful. But now we are faced with science that increasingly destroys our freedoms, and it destroys our basic civil rights. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. And it's happening anyway. And we really, I think, as a society, people have to think about what needs to happen, that science is reformed in such a way that it becomes something beneficial again, and not something that destroys all of us.
Right. That's what needs to happen. We need a complete restructuring of all the public health services, the scientists. We got to just start. Yeah, and obviously, most scientists are good and they are trying to help find cures for stuff. They are trying, to do good stuff. But there's a lot that, and the powers that be are just focusing on the harmful stuff that's just harming people. They're captured by the pharmaceutical complex. They're they're just trying to advance this garbage that doesn't work, and vaccines as the only solution, and with nothing else that can work, with
Mhm.
chemotherapy as the only cancer therapy, when there's all these others that they've never bothered to test or don't allow to test. It's just a system of human destruction. That's what it is now, and human chronic disease, and treating the symptoms but not the actual illness. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, that all needs to change.
Yeah, and I think it's even more. It's not just big corrupt pharma. It's this ideology that humans are like a cancer on Earth, that the Earth would be better off without humans, or with a hugely reduced number of humans. And I think that was also driving the whole climate alarmism agenda, where we now see a really interesting pivot that I think is driven by the fact that there is such an enormous need by very, very powerful and influential tech people for more energy to feed the AI. And that's why they discarded the whole climate stuff. I'm sure I'm sure that wouldn't have happened otherwise. They would have continued to ride on the climate extremism wave as long as they could. But because that really now conflicts, the whole net zero stuff, it really conflicts with the demand for more and more energy to feed the AI the data centers, to
Right.
have more and more powerful AI. So they had to discard it. That's all that's behind it. It's not some kind of, oh, wait a minute, climate change is really not what it was made out to be. It's not really, really dangerous. No, no, no. That wasn't it. This was given as the public reason.
Yeah, yeah, this AI has changed many different things and canceled many agendas to all get feed into this, because that's the next phase of what they're going to roll out.
And I think the most important thing people can take from this is just say no. And there will be inspire other people to say no. Everybody who says no, everybody who sees someone say no will think, oh, well, I can do the same. I can also say no. By the way, in airports with these facial recognition things, you don't have to do that. There's no sign that says, oh, you can opt out. They don't tell you that. But you don't have to do it. You can go and say, I don't want to do it. I want to opt out. I want to be, I want to show my passport. I'm not going through it, because it's not mandatory. They don't tell you that, but um,
Right.
yeah, you can do
Right.
it. Thank you so much, Nick.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And yeah, do not take the microneedle patch implants. That's it. That's how we defeat this.